The sterile white corridors of Tongren Hospital in Beijing were humming quietly with the usual urgency of a Thursday morning. But behind the pristine double doors of room 508, a storm was brewing, one that would shatter the calm of the hospital and grip the attention of the entire entertainment industry. Inside, Xiao Zhan stood at the foot of the hospital bed, his hands clenched, knuckles white. His eyes were red, not just from sleepless nights, but from fury. The monitors beeped rhythmically behind him, mocking the rising tension. And across from him stood Su Kai, calm on the outside, but his clenched jaw betrayed the storm within. "Why are you even here?" Xiao Zhan's voice, usually velvet smooth, now had the sharpness of a blade. Su Kai took a deep breath, stepping closer to the bed where Wang Yibo lay unconscious, a thin four-line running from his arm. "I have every right to be here," he said coldly. "You don't get to decide who cares about him." This wasn't just a random hospital encounter. The spark had been ignited months ago during a high-profile variety show where Xiao Zhan, Wang Yibo, and Su Kai were guests. The chemistry between Su Kai and Wang Yibo had fans going wild, but behind the scenes, it was Xiao Zhan who noticed the subtle shifts, the lingering glances, the private jokes, the way Yibo laughed just a little louder at Su Kai's words. Xiao Zhan had brushed it off. He and Yibo had years of history. Their bond, whether the world knew it or not, went far deeper than cameras could capture. But now, with Wang Yibo in a hospital bed after a brutal motorcycle accident, emotions were no longer something Xiao Zhan could afford to bury. 2 days earlier, news of Wang Yibo's accident broke the internet. "Top actor injured in fatal motorcycle collision," the headlines screamed. Fans across the globe spiraled into panic, but Xiao Zhan was already en route to the hospital before the first headline hit. He had arrived just in time to see Yibo being wheeled into the emergency room, bloodied, unconscious, and barely breathing. And yet, as he waited outside the ICU in agony, it was Su Kai who showed up with flowers, sunglasses, and an entourage of stylists, as if this were a movie set. Xiao Zhan didn't speak then. He simply watched. But now, with Yibo stable but unresponsive, the silence was no longer an option. "You should leave," Xiao Zhan said, his voice dangerously low. Su Kai raised an eyebrow, amused. "You think this is about you? This isn't about me." Xiao Zhan snapped. His voice ricocheted off the white walls. A nurse peeked in, startled, but quickly ducked back out. "Then what is it about?" Su Kai challenged. "Because from where I'm standing, you're acting like a jealous ex." The slap came fast, a sound so sharp it seemed to freeze time. Su Kai's face turned sideways from the force, and for a moment, everything went quiet except the steady beep of the heart monitor. Xiao Zhan didn't apologize. His eyes were glassy now, the weight of everything pressing down on him. You don't get to walk into someone's life when they're vulnerable and confuse them. You don't get to toy with feelings that don't belong to you. Su Kai touched his cheek, still smirking. "And what are you doing, Zhanji? Protecting him like he's yours? When's the last time you told him how you actually felt?" The question hit like a sledgehammer. Unbeknownst to both, Wang Yibo's assistant had left his phone recording in his coat pocket, catching the entirety of the confrontation. The recording would later be leaked, causing an online explosion. As the argument continued, Xiao Zhan's voice cracked. "I've been there for him through everything. Through betrayals, scandals, exhaustion, breakdowns. Where were you, Su Kai, when he collapsed during shooting in the freezing cold? When he locked himself in his room for 3 days after his dog died?" Su Kai didn't have an answer. His silence was an admission. "Walk away, Su Kai," Xiao Zhan said, pointing toward the door. "Before I make you." Su Kai stared at him, fire in his eyes, but then, surprisingly, he turned. "For what it's worth," Su Kai said over his shoulder, "he still smiled when he saw me. Think about what that means." And then he walked out. The moment Su Kai left, Xiao Zhan collapsed into the chair beside the bed. His hand reached out, trembling, and held onto Yibo's limp fingers. "You idiot," he whispered. "You always like to make things complicated." Tears slid down his face, raw, exposed, unfiltered. "Come back. I don't care if you hate me for it, just come back." Outside the door, fans were starting to gather. Security was tightening. Rumors were flying. But inside room 508, it was just two souls, one broken, one sleeping. 2 days later, the audio from the confrontation surfaced online. Fans were stunned by Xiao Zhan's passionate defense, and even more shocked by the slap. The hashtags #Xiao Zhan slapped Su Kai and #WalkAway Su Kai trended worldwide. People debated fiercely, some defended Su Kai, others rallied behind Xiao Zhan. But the one person who hadn't said a word was Wang Yibo. Until he finally woke up. In a surprise live stream from his hospital bed, Yibo addressed the world with a calm expression and a bruised face. "I heard everything," he said. The chat exploded. Over 20 million viewers flooded the comments within the first 3 minutes. He smiled faintly. "The argument, the slap, the history. I heard all of it." A pause. "And I'm not mad." He looked straight into the camera. "I've made a lot of mistakes. Maybe I sent the wrong signals. Maybe I didn't speak up when I should have. But now, I know exactly where I want to be." He glanced off camera. And then, Xiao Zhan appeared beside him. The room went silent again, a rare stillness on the internet. And then, Wang Yibo took Xiao Zhan's hand and said, "He's always been the one. He just didn't know I already chose him." Su Kai, known for his usual calm, posted a single message on Weibo. "I stepped into a storm I didn't start. But I won't be the villain in a love story that was never mine." Walked away then. Walking away now. Wishing them peace. Fans praised his maturity, though some still dragged him for meddling. Others demanded a full-blown reality show to follow the trio's real-life saga. Within a week, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo released a joint statement confirming they were grateful for the clarity that recent events brought. No labels were used, but their message was clear. No more hiding. No more pretending. They walked hand in hand out of the hospital the following weekend, greeted by hundreds of fans holding signs that read, "You chose right, Yibo," and "Zhangge forever." As for Su Kai, he flew out to Paris for a fashion shoot, distant, quiet, and unreachable. Rumors of a new film with Dilraba began circulating, but nothing confirmed. Yet, one thing was certain. The hospital confrontation would go down as one of the most shocking, emotional, and unforgettable moments in Sea entertainment history. And all because Xiao Zhan stood his ground and said those 4 thunderous words. "Walk away, Su Kai." The moment Su Kai stepped forward, just one step too close to Wang Yibo's hospital bed, it was as if the entire room dropped 10 degrees. Xiao Zhan didn't move. He just stared, his expression unreadable, but his eyes flared with something raw, something ancient. "Step back," Xiao Zhan said quietly. Su Kai chuckled under his breath. "Zhanji, I didn't come to fight you. I came to see him." "You saw him," Xiao Zhan snapped. "Now walk away." But Su Kai didn't. Instead, he took another step closer, now standing directly across from Xiao Zhan on opposite sides of the bed, as if Wang Yibo were the silent prize in a war neither man wanted to lose. "You don't own him," Su Kai said, his voice calm, too calm. "You think because you've known him longer, that gives you some divine right? You're not his keeper." "I never said I was," Xiao Zhan replied coldly. "But I'm the one who held his hand the night he almost ended everything." Su Kai froze. He hadn't expected that. Xiao Zhan's voice cracked with unfiltered emotion. "Last winter. After that brutal drama shoot. The director publicly humiliated him. You remember that?" Su Kai nodded slowly. "He came to my apartment at 3 a.m., drunk, shivering, with tears in his eyes and scratches on his arms. Said he didn't want to feel like a puppet anymore. I sat with him on the kitchen floor until sunrise." "Did you know that?" Su Kai's lips parted, but no words came. Xiao Zhan stepped forward now, the space between them charged like a live wire. "Where were you, Su Kai? When the lights were off, when the fans weren't cheering, where were you?" The silence in the room was deafening. Outside, the muffled sound of elevators and distant chatter faded into oblivion. Su Kai's jaw clenched. "You talk like you've done everything right. But you and I both know you're scared. Scared that if he wakes up and chooses me, it means you failed." Xiao Zhan didn't blink. "If he wakes up and chooses you, I'll walk away." The air froze. But don't pretend this is about him, Xiao Zhan added sharply. This is about you. Your ego. Your need to win. Su Kai looked toward the unconscious Wang Yibo, his face pale under the hospital lights. Maybe he needed someone different. Maybe he saw something in me he couldn't get from you. Xiao Zhan's laugh was bitter. And what exactly did you give him, Su Kai? Designer perfume and scripted smiles? You think that's love? Just then, a young nurse opened the door, wheeling in a tray of medicine. She froze mid-step, eyes darting between the two men. The tension was so thick she could practically taste it. Even the heart monitor seemed to beep louder in protest. Should I come back? She asked timidly. No, both men said in unison, sharp, clipped, and eerily synchronized. She set the tray down and rushed out as if her life depended on it. Suddenly, something clattered to the ground. Xiao Zhan's eyes darted to the floor. It was Wang Yibo's phone. It had fallen from under the bedsheets. It lit up. A message on the screen read, "Don't let them fight. Please. Draft, unsent, ****. Both men stared. A draft. One he never sent. It was written just hours before the accident. Xiao Zhan slowly bent down and picked up the phone, the glow lighting up his face. He didn't speak for a moment. Then, almost in a whisper, he knew this was coming. Su Kai's face faltered. His confidence cracked. He was scared, Xiao Zhan continued, turning the phone around so Su Kai could read it. He didn't want this war. Just as the room dropped into a heavy silence, Xiao Zhan's phone buzzed. It was Yibo's mother. He answered quickly, stepping aside. Auntie. Her voice was tired, soft but firm. Zhana, I heard Su Kai is at the hospital. Yes. A pause. I know you and Yibo have your issues. But you've always protected him. Don't let outsiders confuse what's important. He needs peace right now, not conflict. Promise me. Xiao Zhan looked over his shoulder at Su Kai, who was still staring at the phone in Xiao Zhan's hand. I promise. He ended the call, walked back to Su Kai, and held out the phone. I'm not going to do this here. Not in front of him. If you really care about Yibo, walk away. Give him peace. Give him space to wake up knowing he's not the center of a battlefield. Su Kai looked at the phone, then at Yibo, then at Xiao Zhan. He seemed to struggle, between pride and reason, between emotion and logic. Finally, he exhaled. Without another word, he turned and walked out the door, his footsteps echoing like thunder in the sterile hallway. But just before disappearing from sight, he turned his head slightly. When he wakes up, tell him I meant every word I said, and that I'll be waiting. The door clicked shut behind him. Xiao Zhan let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He dropped into the chair beside the bed again and reached out for Wang Yibo's hand. You heard all of it, didn't you? He whispered. Even unconscious, I bet your stubborn soul was listening. The heart monitor beeped steadily, peacefully. Xiao Zhan smiled faintly. You owe me a slap, by the way. For what I said. For how I waited too long. But I'll wait again if I have to. Just wake up. He leaned forward and gently kissed Wang Yibo's forehead. You're not a prize to be fought over, Yibo. You're a person. My person. Outside, the media waited. The fans speculated. The internet burned. But in room 508, for the first time in days, there was only silence and a quiet hope. Stay tuned to this channel for updates, exclusive breakdowns, and emotional reactions as the story unfolds. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because this miracle might just be real. Asterisk.